one of the things that was so important to me personally, um, starting at the shop, was gaining the respect of the employees
Yep.
that hopefully someday, will work for you, and you can count on them to put in 110%, knowing that, here's a guy that didn't just step into, you know, vice president of whatever. He took the time to learn every aspect of the business, and that was what was most important to me. I know I wanted to learn maybe not everything, but a good amount about everything before I would ever consider myself worthy of an executive level role.
Bill, thanks for joining me. Manufacturing Insiders, just getting off the ground here. I think it's awesome that I got you on as one of the first here. The Hilbert name is synonymous with manufacturing in Erie, and um, I wanted to talk a little bit about that, just kind of how it came to be. You're working at PHB, your dad, Red Dog Industries, a lot of family
Mhm.
connections there. Your grandpa, I mean, we're talking what 100 years ago that he kind of got involved in manufacturing in Erie.
Yeah, Nate. First of all, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. And the company has been around since the early 1900s as a manufacturing entity. My grandfather first started his apprenticeships in tool making in the late 40s probably, and worked his way through his apprenticeships. He was a tool maker for 25 or 30 years before he even got into more of an executive ownership role, and started Red Dog Industries after working, I believe it was Right Precision, which was a long time ago. Um,
Yep.
but I believe Right Precision and Red Dog were the same building, the same location. And obviously created Red Dog, which is a sister company of PHB. They're our tool and die shop. They manufacture mostly all of our die cast dies, and they also do injection molds for a handful of other companies. But my dad, my uncle, uncles were all in the business. My dad and uncle still are. As you mentioned, my dad is still running Red Dog over on East 33rd, and John has been at PHB for almost 17 or 18 years, I think.
Wow.
And PHB was incorporated as PHB in 1984 under my grandfather and two of his business partners. And then probably 4 or 5 years ago, those other business partners were bought out, and it officially became a sole Hilbert owned company.
Gotcha. So, so tell me a little bit about your grandfather. I guess it must be pretty interesting being the third generation in the business. Actually, I believe there's four generations in the business now in some capacity, right?
Yeah, I have. So essentially, it all started with my grandfather, and then my dad and his brothers were at Red Dog. My uncle Joe was at Red Dog for 25 years, I think, before he decided to pursue other things. And John came out to PHB when my grandfather was stepping away a little bit more, kind of entering a semi-retirement phase. Was always involved, wanted to be involved until his passing. And then my dad has been doing and running Red Dog Industries his entire career, which is about 40 years, I think.
Okay.
But my grandfather is he grew up in that time where you know he started out as riding his bike around delivering papers. He's had so many different jobs. Grew up on kind of the eastern side of Erie, kind of down by where I call it the stadium, is the football stadium
Yep.
at 26th and what would that be, State,
Yep.
and was always a very motivated individual. He always had to keep himself busy. Was always interested in working with his hands, and which is why I think tool making, which is an incredibly important craft and trade, even in 2024, um, it's getting more difficult to find the not necessarily the talent, but the interest in that type of work, in that type of trade in
Yeah.
2024 as compared to, the past several decades. But he was always a guy and he certainly taught me a lot. I know he taught, my dad and my uncles a lot, but he was all about hard work. He was all about an honest day's work, and providing for his family, and always kind of okay, I've gotten this far. So what's the next step? What else is left? What can I do? And, throughout his career, he was able to, and he started at the very bottom from sweeping floors. That's a very big uh, lesson that was taught not only to my grandfather, but to his kids. And my grandfather and my dad taught me that you have to start from the very bottom in order to gain the best understanding of the business that you're in or the trade that you're in. And everybody started sweeping floors and cleaning bathrooms. And for my grandfather, he was able to reach that executive position, ownership level, CEO, president position, based on a lot of years of hard work and a lot of grinding, and um, just a lot of hours, just spent at the shop. He'd go to work when it was dark, come home when it was dark. He's a big family guy. He has 4 kids, and so obviously very family oriented, as we all are. But certainly a mentor of mine, along with my dad, and working with John over the past almost 14 years. Obviously, you learn something new every day.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that is a really interesting dynamic too. I mean, I grew up in a family business, and working with dad, there's challenges that come with that, working with family. What,
Hmm.
how do you feel about that? What's been your experience? Did you work some with your dad as well over at Red Dog?
My interaction with Red Dog was minimal. In the beginning, I'll call it, in the summers of high school and things like that, I was caddying at the Aqua Club, or I was, at Red Dog cleaning the bathrooms. We used to have a company called Anson Manufacturing that was off of 8th Street.
Okay.
Worked there for a couple of summers, cleaning bathrooms, doing small odds and ends jobs. As monotonous as it gets, to sorting O-rings. I mean,
Yep.
I had the opportunity to work with some of the guys, learning, Bridgeports and basic machining and polishing, and the EDM process, which stands for electrical discharge machining. And it, it was really interesting, because, you essentially start with a block of steel, and you've been out here enough probably, and
Yep.
seeing our tools, and it's pretty fascinating how how the whole process comes together from start to finish, from design to a finished product. But as far as, got a little off topic there, um, the interaction with my dad was minimal. The earliest days that I have of Red Dog was, my mom would take me over there after school, drop me off. I'd have to go get my hair cut with my dad, and that was my first introduction to Red Dog. It was always cool when you were there, because he'd take you around and walk, look at all the big machines. And I have a lot of respect for my dad and my grandfather and my uncles, and all the time and energy that they've put in, and working together. I'll always remember my dad and my uncle, who were at Red Dog for a long time together. I think they said in their entire careers to date, before my uncle went out to PHB, they got in one argument. So I
Wow.
think that shows a lot about, our family. I mean, we work well together. We don't try to certainly step on each other's toes or anything. I don't even know if that's the right way to put it. Um, but the interaction wasn't. I was always working with someone else. I think I know that my dad and John, when I came out to PHB in 2011, they wanted to remain in the background. They didn't want to interject themselves into my education and my training and things like that. Because obviously there are completely and totally competent individuals working for both companies that were able to teach and train me and get to help me through the many years of being a PhD. And you're always learning. But I've my initial aspirations when I entered college was I wanted to be an airline pilot. So I started a flight technology program at Kent State. That was a lot of fun. I got to about the middle way through sophomore year, and I don't know what really. I still have a passion for aviation. Still do some hobby flying when I find the time. Um,
That's cool.
but it's something about it's not necessarily something that you have to do or you feel obligated to do. It was something that I wanted to do,
Hmm.
and so I changed my major and started in business and went through obviously the motions of college and graduate school at Gannon, and kind of the rest is history, as they say, because 2011 and here we are today in 2024, and it feels like it's been about an hour and a half. I mean,
Yep.
time just it just flies by. And once, start a family, get married, all that time just continues to fly by. And it's been a great um, adventure. And the one of the best decisions I've ever made was choosing to redirect my path to the company business. And it's an exciting industry, die casting, machining, molding. There's never a dull day.
Yeah, and you guys make some awesome things. I want to talk a little bit more about that, but I want to get back to your phraseology there. You said going through the motions of the education, which I think is really accurate in a lot of ways with a lot of manufacturing jobs, right? You know, I think in a lot of cases, you want to become a lawyer, you want to become a doctor. The education is kind of pivotal in it, but with manufacturing, there's a lot of on the job training. There's a lot of ways that you can progress in your field and in your career track, just by getting that hands-on experience, and that's really the most important part of it.
Mhm. It is absolutely. I mean, the biggest any advice that I would. I mean, it doesn't matter if what you really do. My motivation, and I told my uncle John this when I started. You put me in the dirtiest pit you can find, whether that's a bathroom stall or whether that's sweeping floors or doing whatever. I'm going to learn from the very beginning
Hmm.
and work my way through. And I've worked in every corner of this company, including Red Dog, spending some summers over there doing, odds and ends jobs as any kind of summer, I'll call it quote unquote intern would do.
Yeah.
Um, but, I started sweeping the floors back in 2011, working with our maintenance team. I worked in, our water treatment department, which is a very important part of the company.
Yep.
Research and development, quality, our process control department. Some of these you might understand because your understanding of our business and working with us and some of the terminology that I use. Working with our setup, setting up our machines. Process control is tasked with maintaining the machine production, essentially. Um, Engineering, in the tool room, breaking down dies, putting them back together, understanding the issues. Engineering and design, that's essentially step one to designing a new die cast tool.
Yeah.
Working over at our machining division, so a lot of different areas, and I've been with the company since January of 2011, and I still haven't hit uh, all of the places that you can go. Working now, as you know, in project management and corporate sales. Been doing that for about 4.5, 5 years,
Yep.
since 2018. So it is so important to, and I'm sure you've heard this phrase before. I'm by no means an expert, but I know a lot about every department, and then certainly enough to be pretty dangerous.
Yep. Yep.
So it's been
Enough to
a
be dangerous.
yeah.
So it sounds kind of to me like you know your aspirations may to have more of a global role in the company. Is that kind of
Mhm.
what you're looking at?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, just like my grandfather did, his mindset and the mindset that he instilled in his kids and my dad instilled in me is you need to start from the bottom, work your way up, take your licks, put in your time, which he did, and which my dad and my uncles have done to reach the level of the leadership and executive levels that they are at. And that is absolutely my aspirations one day, because as you said, I'm a third generation. Uh, we are a third generation manufacturing company, and hopefully we can continue that pretty important legacy. We're a bigger company. We employ a lot of people. Some of our products, as you mentioned, are pretty well known, sold all over the world. And as we all know, the curse of the third generation is never a topic that I like to hear, because I'm like, well, hopefully that doesn't hold true to this third generation. Certainly not. And I think,
Yeah, I think as long as you're reinforcing that, put in the work, and take your licks, that kind of a philosophy. Because I think really the problem is entitlement. If you're you know if
right.
you're born into it, you feel like you're entitled to a position, you can just step right into it. And
Hmm.
if you didn't learn all of the areas of the business, you didn't spend time in the sales, the engineering, maintenance. You don't get it. You don't know what that work's like.
Exactly. One of the things, and I've seen people. I know people that have kind of, that are in a similar, that have the, family businesses and things like that, and they step into more of an executive management role. Right out of college, they get their degree, or they want to continue their education, get a master's degree or what have you, and step into that management role, and that's fine. I mean, that some companies don't necessarily have as many moving parts as we do. Um, but one of the things that was so important to me personally, um, starting at the shop, was gaining the respect of the employees
Yep.
that hopefully someday, will work for you, and you can count on them to put in 110%, knowing that, here's a guy that didn't just step into, you know, vice president of whatever. He took the time to learn every aspect of the business, and that was what was most important to me. I know I wanted to learn, maybe not everything, but a good amount about everything before I would ever consider myself worthy of an executive level role in the company. And as I said, I'm still learning. I'm still going through different education training roles right now. As I said, project management, engineering, corporate sales, um, all very important aspects of the job.
Yep. No, I think that's gonna be so valuable when you're when you're running the company, essentially, understanding of those roles. My business, that's tough too. I mean, I have developers, they do coding. I don't know how to do coding, but I know when something's wrong. I know
Hmm.
enough to know that it's just not going quite right. We need to figure this out. But yeah, one of the things I've always respected about you is your leadership demeanor. I think you have a really good, I don't know what the word is, aura about you. You command respect, but you're also humble, and I think you also are very quick to admit when you don't know something, and I think those are very important leadership characteristics.
Appreciate that. That's definitely, as a family, I like to consider, the Hilbert family pretty humble. We like to maintain a low profile. Um, and um, It's always how we've been. It's we don't need all the lights and the big showy stuff. It's just we want to come to work, do the best job we can, provide as best we can for our employees, and we think we do a pretty good job at that.
Yeah, I think most would agree with you. What's your take on our region as a kind of the economic drivers behind it? I feel pretty strongly about manufacturing. I feel pretty strongly that that's the core of our region, and the more we try to get away from it, the
Hmm.
more we suffer. Um, and there's people that are argue for tourism and for a lot of different kind of entertainment centric ways of building our economy, moving new companies here.
Hmm.
What do you think is the solution to our obvious economic problem?
Hmm. That's an excellent question, Nate. I think it's a lot, kind of, in our business, I've been noticing, a generational shift. And I've said this to a lot of people. We have a lot of retirements that have been ongoing and upcoming.
Yeah.
The mid 50s and the mid 60s, everyone's working a little bit longer now. And we're starting to see that mass exodus, I'll call it, of everyone's coming of age and they have put in their time and they want to retire, go enjoy life, which we certainly appreciate and respect. And they certainly deserve 100% of it. Um, the younger generation, I think technology, I think the lack of understanding of what a job, specifically trades, electricians, plumbers, tool and die makers. We push as a company within the manufacturing realm. We push those types of things so hard. Um, I feel I feel like life after high school is becoming a little different for the younger generations. I think maybe some people aren't really as motivated to go to college. We push the mentality of you do not have to go to college, get a degree, graduate, and work for the next 25 to 30 years, paying off what you went to school for. I want the younger generation to learn that trades are an invaluable thing, that an invaluable profession that can earn you a more than sustainable living wage.
Yep.
You can avoid a lot of debt in the form of student loans, things like that. I think just global, the world. I feel personally, Nate. I think the world is just in a rough spot at the moment. COVID. In my opinion, it seems like COVID was 15 years ago. It's like what happened? All of a
But
sudden
it's
it was here, and
almost
all of a
everywhere.
sudden, I mean, it was gone in a heartbeat. I mean, it was crazy. And when you sit back and think about it, it wasn't that long ago, right about this time, everything was closed. Couldn't go
Mhm.
anywhere.
Yep.
And people had to learn and adapt and evolve, remote, remote work. I mean, it that has been crazy. I think it's not a bad thing, but people lost the didn't lose, but some people I think lost the motivation to go to work. I think even from a business or a company standpoint, people said, well, maybe I don't have to pay rent on this building anymore because technically these people could probably do their jobs from home. Um, I I'm not scared for the future. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. We know that you could say that about just about anything, but how our region has been so manufacturing driven. And over the past 15, 20 years, the level of manufacturing has declined. You can see that just by driving around.
Yep.
For us as a company, we promote specifically, the tool and die, the manufacturing trade so heavily. We have started, we're hiring as many as we can. We skilled and non-skilled labor. Again, and when the I hate to say this, when the government was handing out checks, it killed a lot of the motivation. People could figure out, well, I could probably just sit at home and wait for that check to come in the mail, or I'm gonna, use this government program or something to my advantage until it runs out or exhausts itself.
Right.
I think, and I sense that the economy is going to get a little bit worse before it gets better from a manufacturing standpoint. But I truly feel like there's going to be something uh, in hopefully the not too distant future that brings it back a little bit, mainly in our area. I mean, and it's still relatively strong. I mean, you have a ton of manufacturing companies, and these don't have to be, these grandiose big manufacturing companies. You have, you know, everything from a machine shop that's in 1,000 square foot building to a place like PHB that's 500,000 square feet. So I think if I hopefully didn't ramble on too long about your question, I think it's going to get a little bit. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. In a nutshell, essentially. But I think the future is bright. It certainly is for die casting. I mean, my grandfather used to tell me, and my dad and my uncle used to tell me that people said, "Oh, die casting is a dying industry. It's not going to be around," and that was 30 years ago.
Yep.
And we're here, and we are extremely healthy, busier than ever. So I think it's going to remain strong, if not get stronger as time goes on.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, we see the die cast parts you guys make. You're going in washer machines,
Mm-hmm.
heavy duty engines.
Yep,
Um,
we do. We make, I mean, our market segments are not broad, but, automotive, uh, very ingrained in the automotive industry. Home appliance, the KitchenAid stand mixer that everybody has on their countertop, whether hopefully they use it or if it's pure decorative, that's okay too. Uh, Military electronics. Um,
yep.
I mean, those are our top three. Commercial laundry, as you mentioned, we make a component for the top load washer for Whirlpool Corporation. I think it's top load. I don't think it's front load, but I
I
could be
think you're
wrong. But yeah, we have. It's nice to not have to set our efforts around one or two main customers. We have a very healthy book
yep.
of business across all different types of market segments, and that we provide parts all over the world to people.
And I think that's a really, really important concept for a lot of manufacturers. I know a lot of them are aware of this on a surface level. We need to diversify. We need to make sure that one segment of the economy is up, and the other one's down. We have something in
Mm-hmm.
both, just kind of a hedge. So you guys have been, fortunate to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for maybe a smaller manufacturer? You guys are what, around 500 employees?
Yeah, a little less than that probably is from a corporate level between both divisions.
So somebody that's got 100 employees, they're scarily, a little bit too focused in, whatever the aerospace sector. What would be kind of your recommendation for them for how they might broaden?
I mean, a lot of companies have one or two big customers that carry 60% of their yearly revenue, which is okay, but that's a lot of
Eggs in one basket.
eggs in one basket. I mean, diversity is something that, specifically over the past many years that we as a company have wanted to not mitigate the risk, but diversify. We we've taken on a couple of new customers that have really helped spread that diversity out, which is great. Um, COVID was a big deal for us when you, excuse me, when you say, when, something like that, as we all well know, killed countless businesses. And it doesn't have to just be manufacturing. Um,
Yep.
Luckily, we were deemed an essential business. So we were fortunate enough to not have to close our doors for a period of time. But we still saw, we still took hits in demand and things like that as expected. A lot of the orders dropped off or pushed out. Um, and we were able to obviously weather that storm as many did and some didn't, which is unfortunate. But I think for, if it's whether it's a small machine shop or a prototype company, um, even like someone like Red Dog, just and they have less than 50 employees, I think. PHB obviously is their biggest customer, but they have a company like Rubbermaid. I mean, they've had Rubbermaid for 35 years as a customer, um, and a slew of other customers. But from those smaller shops, you never know what's out there until something just comes knocking on your door. I mean, it's crazy what you don't know what you don't know. So from a sales perspective, we obviously rely heavily, which is why we're so ingrained with the you and the We Create team in our website. I would say to kind of segue off of that, I think a healthy website is very, very important because I'm sure you can attest to this, Nate, that we rely on pretty much all of our RFQs through Google searches and online searches and RFQs that come through the website. The day of the salesman, I will say, doesn't really apply to us anymore. We don't have guys walking around knocking on doors saying, "Hey, can I come talk to you? Let me tell you what we can do for you." Things like that.
Yep.
We get countless inquiries through our website. So one piece of advice is I would say, if you haven't looked at your website, if you don't have a website, or if it could use a little sprucing up, I think that would be, and all of the SEO work that we've done um, to develop, the keywords and all of that, I'll call it terminology that I don't understand as good as you guys. That has turned us around. That's how we got one of our newest commercial laundry customers was through our website.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I preach it all the time. I think it comes, I think it's received a lot better coming from you because obviously it's my business. But I didn't want to spend too much time on the topic, but I think it is important just for other manufacturers that are looking to diversify, looking for new customers. The outside sales is tough. I mean, I think manufacturers are over solicited these days. You guys get
Mm-hmm.
approached for literally everything. People want
Everything.
donations.
Everything.
People want to sell you all kinds of services, and
Yep.
you're programmed to shut them down. You don't want to hear from these people all the time. You got work to do.
Right.
So kind of setting yourself up so that when people are actually looking for what you offer, you're
Mm-hmm.
there. I think is really where you need to be.
Right. Right. One of the biggest things for us right now is, and it's a good thing, is a lot of the reshoring. We receive a lot of quotation requests for uh, products that need to be quote unquote made in the USA or American made, and a lot of the bigger companies and that are involved with that are reshoring and having to move things away from that offshore low price
Yep.
type of offering, and obviously that we just can't be sustained here. But it's definitely a good thing. I think that's to kind of revert back to the economic question. I think the reshoring efforts and the efforts from government officials and corporations as a whole to bring those products back to America and bring them back to the American worker. Um, and it's gonna hurt financially, but the can't remember what the acronym is, but buy American made or buy American. It's the one something that obviously the government has been working on, and we
Mhm.
get a lot of people say, "Hey, this has to be a domestically sourced product." You know, what can you do for
Yep.
us? And we go from there.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that would be a huge benefit. It is such a complex issue because you have, kind of the tariff and the reshoring side of things,
Hmm.
and you also have what's really been the big challenge in the past 3 to 5 years, and that is, finding the employees to actually do the work.
Hmm.
And you guys are pushing that. I see a lot of manufacturers pushing it, the NTMA is pushing it, the MBA is
Yep.
pushing it. These ideas. Let's get in front of the kids at school.
Yep.
Let's try to get them interested in manufacturing. And I feel like those things are making some incremental progress, but I don't feel like we've actually hit the solution yet. It's a branding problem.
I would
And so
agree.
how do we rebrand manufacturing to make it more appealing? And I think another issue too is that the COVID period gave people a really remote philosophy on life.
Hmm.
You hear a lot of people talking about the nomadic lifestyle and, hey, I want to be able to work from a boat and things like that.
Right.
Obviously, if you're working in a manufacturing facility, you're not working from a boat.
Right.
But it can afford you those opportunities later in life and give you a lot more financial stability. What is the branding solution? How do we get this message to make manufacturing look appealing, to help kids understand what their long-term goals in life are and align those with what their current choices are in the profession?
That is probably the hardest question I think to answer. We go around to you know all the high schools, every single high school in our region. We go around, we go to career fairs, job fairs. We go to manufacturing day. We're pretty ingrained with the Manufacturing Business Association in town, and it is. I don't even know how to put it into words because it's so difficult to try to communicate, hey, manufacturing or a trade or, here are the advantages. Let's set up a whiteboard like the one right behind me, pros and cons of, do you want to go to college or do you not want to go to college? What are the benefits of going to college? What are the benefits of not going to college? It's, I went to, I think it was out in Iroquois, maybe, or Harbor Creek, yeah, a year or two ago. Couple kids were just graduating. You have to ask the question: who wants to go to college and who doesn't want to go to college? As we all know, that continuing your education is great. I mean, it is. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it is only getting more expensive. And
Mm-hmm.
those who don't have scholarships or things like that, that have to take out the loans and bear the burden of the pretty much full cost, depending upon where you go. Like I said earlier, it takes years to pay all that off. From a rebranding standpoint, I don't. It's tough to try to communicate that and try to explain it maybe correctly. Um, like I said, what we do is we go around all the schools. We try to get in front of as many kids as we can and say, hey, this is a well-paying job that you can provide for your family. You're not going to be in debt. Um, to your point, Nate, it's definitely not where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think the manufacturing community as a whole has a lot of work to do, but it's finding that right note, finding that right chord, essentially, to get the idea through to the younger generation that this is. I mean, you can't sit at home and you can try to make money on social media, or you can try to do this, that, or the other. Go be a YouTuber, a TikTok person, or whatever. But I don't know what's going to put, 3 meals on your table every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy work. Manufacturing, anything, any, labor intensive job is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do I think that from a wage perspective, I think it's extremely fair. You can, but there's so many, certain trades obviously carry different, um, different wage structures and things like that. For PHB, we offer a very competitive starting wage, non-skilled labor wage. You get into the skilled labors, the tool makers, the things like that. Obviously, those will carry different um, perks, but also comes with additional responsibility and training and additional, from a monetary perspective, uh, investment. The investment in the employee is very important. You send them to an apprenticeship program, you send them to training classes, all of that. Uh, you know, would not be considered an out-of-pocket expense to the employee. So one of the things is we invest and reinvest in our employees, and we're always encouraging the community to not look down on manufacturing. And I really think that the college idea, that idea of college, has diluted a little bit. I think we're pretty much the same age, and we can probably remember 15, 20 years ago, college was like, that's where you're going.
Right.
It's just, you're going to college, okay, get your degree. Now it's not that it's not important, but like I said, I think it's diluted a little bit in the fact that people are realizing, man, I can make a good amount of money and not need a college degree.
Yeah.
Um, I know I'm rambling on. I apologize.
No, you're
Uh,
fine. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And I do agree with you that the concept of college has changed, and certainly a bachelor's degree today is equal to a college diploma 20 years ago. It's just
mhm,
it's not going to get you that far. I think there's also this underlying philosophy with a lot of the younger generation that are moving into the workforce, and even a lot of adults that I see that are working jobs, is there's this get rich quick mentality. There's the
mhm.
currency trading and in the Bitcoin and
Oh
everybody
yeah.
thinks that they can get somewhere really fast.
Hmm.
And some people get lucky, and then those ones are the ones that get posted on social media, and everyone's trying to emulate that. But I
Right.
think that there's something to be said for work as not a way to get rich, but as a lifestyle. Work as something that provides somebody with fulfillment. For me, I
Hmm.
love I love making things, and I love doing manual labor. I chop wood for fun.
Hmm.
I burn it too, but I love chopping wood. It's just something about it just makes me feel manly, and I just like doing it. But I think there's a lot of this younger generation that feels like work is something you should be trying to get out of and try to
Hmm.
find the shortcut to the money. And I almost feel like that's the fundamental problem with the brand.
Hmm. I think the work ethic has nosedived, in my opinion, with the younger generations. Like you said, they want to do less for more, um, and I think they don't want to put in the hours. They don't want to put in the work. It's unfortunate to see, but I think a lot of it, like, I got my work ethic from my grandfather, from my uncles, from my dad. They got up in the morning, went to work all day, 5 days a week, sometimes six, seven if needed, and they came home. And, were providing for their family. That's just what they did, and that's all I really ever knew. That's what I was taught that you're supposed to do. Whether you're the breadwinner, whether it's mom or whether it's dad, it doesn't matter. The work ethic that I learned and that I saw is really what gives me the motivation to want to come to work every day and to enjoy what I do. Like to your point, the manual labor, getting out there on the shop floor and setting up die cast machines, getting dirty, learning. I learned how to weld and things. I mean, it's a blast. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and it's valuable knowledge. I mean, it was fun. I mean, a lot of people don't think that getting dirty all day in a big hot die casting manufacturing plant's any fun. Definitely was fun for me.
Yeah.
And I think work ethic and motivation are really, really, really important. And it's certainly something that I want to teach my kids. I'd rather not see them on their phone. They're obviously too young to have phones, but their phones and doing all this, that, or the other thing. And I want to teach them that an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, I think is very important, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what we promote here. You give me an honest day's work, and you're going to get an honest day's pay, and that's always what I've been taught. And that's to this day. I come to work and I say I'm going to try to do my absolute best today, and my absolute best tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, and that's something that you've been fortunate to have, a family that instilled those traits in you.
Mm-hmm.
I have as well, but I think that's where we've lost a lot. With the younger generation, especially, is there has been some breakdown of family units, breakdown of
Right.
just the value that people put on the family unit as the nucleus of these
Mm-hmm.
morals. So I think what we're going to have to figure out is how do you instill these values in someone that hasn't had that background, that hasn't had that training, and
Right.
how do you have them value work and the fulfillment that you get from doing your best in things.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big challenge.
I think so. I think you're exactly right. Because again, to your point, it's not something that the younger generation are going to be taught. We were taught our entire lives, both you and I, that going to work is important. Having a strong work ethic is important. And I wouldn't know the first thing about how to teach that to a younger generation who wasn't fortunate enough to maybe have a family dynamic that allowed that to uh, be absorbed into them. And that's a pretty good point. And I think it centers around a lot about what we're talking about. It's work ethic and how we can get to your point of rebranding and getting making manufacturing fun and uh, exciting and getting people in the door and hiring the young folks, because right now we're an extremely green company. We have obviously a lot of knowledge still out there, but it's tough, when you have a 30 or a 40-year guy that has worked his days and he wants to retire, and you have to replace him and train up another individual. So like I said earlier, we're in that generational shift where we have to teach these guys that there are no free rides. This isn't a cakewalk. This is hard work,
Mhm.
and it's something that I think we need to really communicate. And I just don't know. I don't know how you teach work ethic. I really don't. Um,
It is a tough thing. I mean, I'm fortunate to have some great employees myself, but they do have different mindset, and they're
mhm.
motivated by things that a lot of times I can't really put my finger on.
Right.
I do the shotgun approach and try to hit it from every possible angle, and hopefully I touch on something that works.
Hmm.
But it is tough. And I think you've got an awesome family. I mean, you have 3 kids now, right?
Yep. 3 kids.
2 sons, daughter.
Yeah. Both 6. Brady's gonna be 4, and then Claire just turned 5 months.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's incumbent on guys like us. I mean, that's doing our part in a way. I
Mhm.
mean, that's the most we can do for our country and for society is have good kids and raise good kids. I think a lot of middle class, upper middle class. I've run into this a lot. Everyone's thinking about, well, I'm not making enough money. I want to have
Mhm.
more flexibility to travel. It's like that stuff was only going to get you so far.
Right.
You can only travel so much. You can only have so much fun, and you're
Mm-hmm.
never going to have enough money. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
Never.
I think you need to bite the bullet and have some kids. I think that's the bottom line.
I think so. I have several friends who are still living the bachelor lifestyle, but they're all full time jobs. They're busy. Whether or not that's a choice or whether they just haven't found Mrs. Right yet, I don't know. I was always, again, it just goes back to how I was brought up and what I saw as a kid. My grandmother, my grandfather, my entire family have all have fairly big families, at least 2, 3 kids. We're very family oriented. I met my wife Helena back in not long after I started working here in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Late 2000, well, late 2011, I think it was. Got married in 2017, and Claire was born in December of last year, and she was the cherry on top of the cake. And we're a very, very happy family of 5, and it's the best thing. And I mean, having kids and watching them grow and trying to instill the same qualities and things like that in them that you uh, were taught and got as a kid from your parents, I think is really, really important. And yeah, the I want to go here. It's funny. Even I have the people I know that travel every weekend and go to this, that, or the other thing. I'm like, I couldn't imagine doing all that. I just couldn't. I mean, even if I didn't have kids. Um, but yeah, you can never, you're exactly right. You can never have enough money. I mean, it's just, that's life. You gotta appreciate what you have, and just love every single day. Um, Kiss your kids as soon as you get home, as soon as they wake up, as soon as they go to bed. It's even though I'm a lot grayer now, it's still the best. It's still the best thing. As they say, family is always number one. In my opinion, it will obviously that will never change. And then work and any corresponding or auxiliary activities fall to the wayside when it comes to family, because that's so important. And you think about it. I think about it all the time. How short life really is in the grand scheme of things. Before you know it, you're essentially the ghost of your children's future. I mean, you're just simply a memory, and what you can make with the time that you have is so important.
I agree. Yeah, that's great advice. What are you reading right now? Are you a reader?
I'm a kind of, kind of. I have to be in the right mindset. I do some audiobook reading, like, well,
Okay.
listening, I guess.
Right.
I read some, like not self-help books, but some business books. I'm reading kind of an accounting book right now that is just teaching you simple business accounting and things like that, understanding um, the lingo, understanding how business accounting works, because obviously every industry and things like that, the accounting and the finance and the aspects like that are a little bit different. And as someone who is aspiring to, lead and run a company someday, it's important to know that. And it's just one of those steps in my uh, personal journey of wanting to not have to know everything, but know just a little bit about everything in order to be dangerous.
Yeah.
As to be honest, I mean, we're so busy. I wish I could read more, but I feel like I wake up, go to work, come home, kids' time. By the time they go to bed, it's about 8:30, and I'm exhausted, and I could probably read maybe 1 or 2 pages, and then I'll fall asleep. So I wish I
I
could read more.
yeah.
I just I love the thought of reading. I really do. I mean, it's just sitting down with a good book. I've read a couple of John Grisham books and things like that, but I like to read biographies and I call it true story type type things. I'm not really a big fiction person or fantasy book reader, if you will. Um,
Did you ever
so
hear that book?
essentially, in a nutshell, I just don't. I would like to read. I just don't have time.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, I used to have time. I'd read a book or a chapter, a couple pages at least while I was eating my breakfast. But now it's like I wake up, Livy's up,
Hmm.
right after I get up, and it's like I got to feed her breakfast and all that. But
Yep.
I started reading this Rockefeller's letters to his son.
Okay.
So he wrote, and I can't remember what the number is, like 30 letters or something like that to his son throughout the
Hmm.
course of his career, from when he was really young until he was integrated into the business. But I just kind of thought of you with that because obviously your sons, and
Hmm.
potentially getting them involved in the business down the road. But he has some really, I mean, he seems like a great dad. I know the guy's probably taken a lot of criticism over the years, but he always had really good advice. Whenever his son was in a tough spot, he had some great things to say to him. But that might be something you might
Yeah.
pick up and
Send
take a
me.
look
That would be
at.
great if you could send me the link to it or something. That'd be. I'd like to look into that. I really would.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I think you would too. Well, Bill, I really appreciate your time today. I think you've got a lot of great insights. I think you're going to make a great leader of the company there, and the fact that you're learning constantly, learning all the pieces of the puzzle, so that when you're in the leadership position, you know how to manage those departments and come up with the right answer. I think that's incredibly important.
You know, I'm super passionate about our business, about our industry, about our generation and the future generations. I could talk all day about it. I mean, it's something that I do think is going to get better. I hope sooner than later. And I don't not like technology, but I wish it would slow down a little bit. Um, Maybe just to kind of give the give the younger generation a chance to catch up and really understand what manufacturing, the trades. I was thinking about this the other day, that I wish I could go back to like ninth grade or eighth grade or something like that and just relive a couple of days with no phones, no iPads. I mean, yeah, computers for school and things like that, but that's it. And some video games when you get home. Um,
Yep.
it was they always say, 30 years ago, it was a simpler time. And
Hmm.
I truly believe that. And I think it's pretty visible now. But I don't want to continue to ramble. I really appreciate um, you having me on and wanting to chat with me a little bit about my story and the manufacturing industry. Happy to continue the conversation if you want, or be in a
Yep.
support capacity as you kind of get going on your new little webcast thing.
Yep. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think I'm a solution oriented person, and a lot of the topics we've talked about today, I've heard talked about for quite a few years,
Hmm.
and I think there is a solution, and I think there is something to be done about it. I have my own ideas, and what I
Hmm.
really want to draw, and I think we've talked some about it, but I think what I really want to get is just a perspective of leaders in the manufacturing space and what they think the solutions are. Um, I actually have one more question that it just popped into
Sure.
my head. So, what do you think manufacturers as a group? Say we have 100
You broke up,
manufacturing
Nate.
leaders in this area. What do you could do? Oh, I'm sorry. What do you think
Yeah, can you
100
can you say that
manufacturing
again?
leaders in our area? Yes. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay. What do you think 100 manufacturing leaders in our region could do to change the perception of manufacturing to our youth beyond what they're currently doing? Do you feel like they're working together enough? Do you feel like there's more collaboration that could happen with local manufacturers specifically?
I I think there could be, certainly. It's those companies that are motivated enough to do it, that have the time to do it, that have the availability from you know you know a education standpoint to do it. Could is it a tool, from a tool shop to a die caster to a machine house to, I mean, almost like a round table, which is some time, the manufacturers association has these types of events and things like that. But I think
Yeah.
getting the message out there sooner is important. Uh, don't necessarily wait until you know April, of the year before the graduating class of X year is either going to go to college or not. Start that, plant that seed as soon as you can. Like I am by no means a handyman, but if it's something as simple as changing out a light bulb or fixing a squeaky door or unclogging a drain. I say, hey, Bo, or hey, Brady, come over and help me do this. It comes down to, parents, us as people teaching our kids, not just how do I turn on my iPad? I mean, or, hey, can you turn the TV on for me and switch to this station? I mean, it's planting that seed as early as possible, getting the
Right.
kids to work with their hands. I mean,
Yep.
sports is great. I mean, all of that is fantastic. Getting them back outside is so important to me. We love, my family, we love going for hikes and just being outside and playing
Yep.
basketball in the driveway and doing all that. I hate being inside. It just drives me insane.
Hmm.
And I think, instead of maybe from an offering uh, in the education system. It doesn't have to be language arts, social studies, science, math.
Hmm.
Let's get back to the technical aspect. Let's go, the bringing back shop class and things like that. I mean, I think would
Yep.
be so great and so beneficial in order to promote creativity and you know kids don't even know what they're interested in until they're exposed to something. I mean, they have to be exposed to it in order to know that they're interested in it. Would I want to be a welder for my entire life? Probably not. Do I think it's an excellent trade that pays very well? Absolutely. And am I very happy that I was exposed to it and was motivated and interested enough to learn more about it? I mean, I'm by no means certified, but it was fun. I mean, I love to do it. I think it's a blast. And like I said, getting the exposure out there as early as possible, I think, is super important.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. And the message needs to be reinforced over and over. When you were talking about kind of reinforcing those messages to your kids, I thought about the way that kids, they want to be a firefighter, they want to be a police officer. And like my little girl likes Paw Patrol. And so she's
Hmm.
watching Paw Patrol and she's like, "Oh, I want to be a firefighter." Where'd she get that? She got that from watching her little hero dog friend,
Yep.
fight fires. There's nothing like that for manufacturing, is there? There's nothing that promotes a
Nothing.
message of this is a guy. Look at this Bob the welder, man. This guy
Yeah.
makes things every day.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Exactly. Exactly. My son Bo is fascinated with Lightning McQueen. Just fascinated. Loves everything cars, Hot Wheels, blah. Very. He kind of has a bit of an engineering mind. I think he loves to. He has those wooden trains that that you put together. You make a big train track. He'll
Yep.
fill the entire my entire living room train tracks, and it is this. I'm like, I get kind of flabbergasted because I'm like, holy cow, you just assembled this entire thing that is an actual track. And I mean, it's pretty amazing. So, whether maybe he's interested in cars, he can be, maybe he'll be a mechanic someday, or maybe he'll be a train conductor, a train engineer. My son Brady loves animals, everything animal. So I'm like, well, you have to keep that interest. You can't let them lose sight of something that they're really interested in young, because okay, you're going to be playing with this light up sword one day, and then the other next day you're playing with this and that and the other thing. Seeing what they're really truly interested in. My son Brady, as I mentioned, is a big animal lover. Oh, maybe he's going to be a veterinarian. Maybe he's going to work at the zoo. Maybe he's going to be a marine biologist. I don't know, but yeah, I don't want to. I mean, personally, I want to keep that interest. As many as ridiculous number of cars as my son has, I deal with it because he has hundreds. But it's you got to keep that spark
Yeah.
lit, and don't let that pilot light blow out. I mean, you got to keep it going. And
Yep.
obviously, we're not going to teach our sub 5, 4, and 3 year olds anything about manufacturing, but getting the message out there early on is really important.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I agree. And so I think what we decided is we need to somehow glamorize. We need to
Yeah,
uh,
you got to beautify it.
beautify it. Have some shows produced about it. I was also thinking, how like the firemen have like this calendar, the
Yeah,
fireman calendar. The cops do it too, so they take like the most whatever aesthetically pleasing firefighters and put them in here. I was thinking,
exactly.
you'd be a great candidate. I mean, I think that you would fit into that calendar well.
I'll be October.
You,
That's my birthday month.
yeah, October. Okay, we
We'll
got
get a
it.
couple some electricians, couple of welders, couple of plumbers.
Yep. Well, I guess that's what we'll have to shoot for. I'll have my graphic design team get to work on that. We just need a shirtless shot from
Send you
you,
a
and we.
couple poses. I'll send you a
Yep.
couple poses.
Yep.
I'll have my buddy Pete take a couple of snaps.
Pete Gorney.
Yeah.
I love Pete. He's a cool guy.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a good team. I mean, great team out here at the shop. It's really great. And can't say enough about We Create and your team and how appreciative we've been over the years that we've been able to do business with you. And as I said, our website is our salesman. We are, we're a little more, we're busy, which is great. We're a little more selective in the quotations that we choose to pursue. Um, but every day we're getting inquiries, which is great. Whether it's junk or whether it's something, they're still coming through, which is great.
Yep. That's awesome. It wasn't always that way for you guys.
No, no, it wasn't. And I think, going back to the folks that might have a little bit of money to spend on their website, the smaller companies, the things that are looking to diversify a little bit, it truly has made all the difference in the world.
Hmm.
And it couldn't have been the return on our investment and continued partnership with you and the We Create team is invaluable.
Yeah.
So
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear it. That's why I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I love the manufacturing space, and I love when I can, help a company, achieve their goals and become more successful, and really just create a little bit more stability. Because I think stability is the main issue that I hear with manufacturers being too dependent on one or two customers. The economy changes, their business goes down. When you're constantly getting new opportunities, you get the ability to be a little bit selective and to
right,
diversify. Yep. Cool, Bill. Well, hey, thanks a lot for joining today. I
you're
enjoyed
welcome.
chatting with you. Hopefully,
Yeah,
we can
absolutely.
talk some more in the future. Maybe you and I can go grab a beer or something.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'd appreciate it, Nate. And let me know what you need if we can continue to drive the message. I'm all for it, and I know everybody here at our shop would echo what I'm saying.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Well,
Hey,
get
buddy.
back to work. All right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Good to
All
see
right.
you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Bye.
All right. See you, Nate.